It's time for Nazoler Land Issue 3, the third issue of Sunsoft's Disk System based magazine. It's also the last issue of Sunsoft's Disk System based magazine. And if you look at those first two issues, it's amazing that it made it to 3. But the concept isn't completely insane. Remember that one of the big features of the Famicom Disk System was cheap distribution. People wouldn't be paying 3,000 yen for a new issue of Nazoler Land. They'd be overwriting their existing issue with the new one for 500 yen. And a regularly reoccurring collection of small games wasn't an unproven idea. There were computer magazines around in the 1980s that included a floppy disk or cassette tape with various programs on them. Of course, for this concept to work, you have to give people something that they'd actually want. And I don't think Nazoler Land ever achieved that. Issue 3 is the smallest issue yet, with just 4 games included with it, and I'd say only one of them was really any good. The exact kind of small game that should have been a staple of this. They also had a mailbag segment where a character read off letters that they received in response to previous issues, and the results of the Miss Nazoler Land pageant. That was a contest where people could use a very basic drawing program that was in the second issue to draw the picture of a girl, and then Sunsoft would pick the best one. The winner of that contest was high schooler Hisashi Nogami, a name you might actually know since he's the creator of Nintendo's big franchises Animal Crossing and Splatoon. If you're curious about what people drew for this contest, I'll go ahead and put the entire Miss Nazoler Land segment at the end of this video. Both the Miss Nazoler Land and the mailbag segments are completely automatic. You can't advance text or anything like that. And once they're done playing, you have to hit reset to get back to the menu, which is how you get back to the menu from any of the minigames. And what are those minigames? Well, first up, we have Sugorok Quiz. And if you've been watching this channel for a while, you probably just groaned. But hang on, it's not as bad as a lot of the other Sugorok games. Sugorok is a type of Japanese board game that's about the most basic board game possible. You roll a die, you move that many spaces, and every space tells you what to do. Something like get money, lose a turn, things like that. Since the outcome of the game is totally random and the player has no effect, they are actually pretty miserable to play. Sugorok Quiz, on the other hand, is closer to the board game Trivial Pursuit. Now you roll, move, answer a question, and then you gain or lose money based on that. It's also themed around a car race, so every space you move costs fuel, and you have to land on a space with a gas station, which is about 3/4 of them, in order to buy fuel and keep going. So at least with this one, the quiz gives you something to do. Well, of course, trivia questions from 1988 are now decades out of context. What was trivia that someone could reasonably expect to know in 1988 is not necessarily the same thing as it is now. So put this one down as not as bad as it could be, but probably something you'd not want to go and play. The next minigame is Bokuso Tomo-chan, or Burst Dash Tomo-chan. Bokuso is colloquial Japanese, implying an explosive burst of speed. Though there's no timer here, and Tomo-chan doesn't move very fast, so the title doesn't really make sense one way or the other. Tomo-chan made her debut in the previous Nazoler Land issue, so it seems like they decided to bring her back as a bit of a mascot. In this game, your goal is to go from the left to the right. There's a door at the far right-hand side of every stage that you need to get to. Hitting A will make Tomo-chan jump, and she can duck down to fit through small spaces. But she can't do that while jumping. There are also arrows on every stage that blow her skirt up if you pass over them. Not step on them, just go over them. Doing that will make Tomo-chan lose one of her hearts, and if she gets hit 4 times by this, not 3 as the hearts imply, then you have to start the stage over again. So really this is a maze where you have to find the correct path to the exit. There are 4 stages here, and none of them are especially difficult. Though if you do find yourself in a position where you're stuck, you can hit select to end Tomo-chan's life, and then start once again. The third minigame is Shonen Tanteidan, or Boys Detective Club. If you've been paying attention to these Nazoler Land releases, and why would you, you might recognize the character in this adventure game as someone who appeared in a minigame in the first Nazoler Land. And I'm going to say that this is the best game in the entire Nazoler Land series. Admittedly, that's not a very high bar, but this is the one that I think is genuinely good. The perfect kind of minigame that they should have been making and selling Nazoler Land with. This is an adventure game, and one that's much closer to Western adventure games than you usually see in Japan. The plot is that someone has locked a boy detective in a room, and he has to get out. That's it. That's all there is to it. That one room you're looking at is all there is. You have 10 verbs at the bottom of the screen, and after you select one and hit A, then you have a list of every single object that's visible in the room. Everything that you see will be necessary in some way for escape, and you'll have to solve puzzles as you go, like how to get a key out of the drain, or what you can do to melt a block of ice quickly. Basic adventure game concepts for sure, but it's still decently executed in a small package. It's a solid little mini-adventure. And then the last game on the disc is the creatively titled Bingo Game. You've got 3 guesses on what that is, and the first 2 don't count. You get some rather lengthy animations to announce what ball has been pulled, and when someone wins, you don't even get a really great fanfare. Now, although obviously Nazoler Land did not do well enough to continue, there do seem to be plenty of people who have fond memories of it. Maybe that 500 yen price point helped a lot. And of course, the minigame that most of those players remember is that adventure game. Now, although this is the final issue of Nazoler Land, it's not the last Nazoler product on the Disk System. A spin-off game which I will have a lot to say about when we get there. This also isn't the end of Famicom Disk System magazines. At the very end of the Disk System's life, another publisher is going to tie some special Disk System releases to their magazine. And in terms of game quality, those are going to turn out much better. Nazoler Land has been a pretty awful series, and most of this final disc follows that pattern. But at least they're going out with one bright spot on their record. Shame they couldn't figure that out sooner.